We had a fantastic quarter, a terrific ramp. Nothing was easy about it. And a couple of quarters ago, of course, people were worried about how successfully we'd be able to ramp something as complex as Blackwell. Blackwell, people don't, maybe they just forget that it's not just a chip, but it's a whole system.
That was Nvidia's Jensen Huang speaking with our John Fort last night. The AI chipmaker reported stronger fourth-quarter profits and revenue. Sales grew 78% year over year, and the company gave solid revenue guidance for the current quarter. Joining us right now is John Vinh, KeyBanc equity research analyst. And John, right now it looks like that stock is up by about 2%. I know it was kind of fluctuating back and forth. What's your overall take on what Nvidia did to answer any of the questions that were brought up earlier this year, just concerning what's happening in China and some of the other competition that's out there with DeepSeek?
I think Jensen did an excellent job of dealing with the China and the DeepSeek question, right? I think their positioning, obviously, is that DeepSeek R1 is the type of AI model that supports post-training as compared to ChatGPT, which is a pre-training model. And in a post-training model, you potentially require as much as 100 times more compute resources due to the ability to support, customization, fine-tuning, and test-time inferencing. I think he did a great job of doing it. They continue to walk the fine line on China. We think that DeepSeek has driven a surge in demand by Chinese hyperscalers for H20 GPUs. They said that China's percentage of revenues has been about the same, but their data center revenues grew over 90%, which implies that the China business grew over 90%. So I think he did a great job of managing those two touchy topics last night.
The other question was what was happening with the Blackwell chip. Obviously, they've gotten more revenue than I think had been anticipated on the street by some measures. I think it was $3 to $4 billion more. What did it compare against your expectations for the Blackwell chip?
Yeah, they clearly exceeded expectations. They had previously talked about several billions of Blackwell revenues in Q4. We were modeling 7-8 billion. They came in at 11 billion. So by all means, they exceeded all the metrics on the data center front.
The question had been what happens to margins, because obviously they've had to deal with some logistics issues and some supply chain issues to get that out. It sounds like in the second half of the year, those margins will certainly improve. But what's your overall take?
Yeah, I think there is a clear path to gross margins getting back to kind of that normalized range in the mid-70s. I think if you take a step back and you look at what NVIDIA is doing with Blackwell, they're now shipping these full stack server systems with 72 GPUs instead of 8 GPUs with multiple configurations. These things are very complex. There is going to naturally be a natural manufacturing yield curve associated with this. So we think the depressed gross margins here are transient in nature. So we feel pretty good about gross margins recovering here in the second half.
So NVIDIA is doing what it can do, Jensen Huang controlling what he can control on these issues, but there are still the questions of not just what happens with tariffs potentially, but what happens with export controls. And that's going to be a fine line that you said Jensen Huang has walked very well to this point. Can he continue to do that?
I think thus far he has. Obviously, we know that he had met with President Trump at the end of January. Coming out of that meeting, there was not a further restrictions in the export controls. I know there's some concerns that those controls could be further restricted, but I think that's the right policy. I think if I take a step back and think about our policy in terms of AI export controls, I think we should allow the Chinese access to our technology, because if you restrict access to our technology, they're going to find a way to kind of work around it. And I think the consequences of that are going to be a little bit more complicated.
John, I know that your latest report had an overweight rating, a price target of $190. Did anything change based on what you heard yesterday?
No, we think NVIDIA remains one of the strongest, most compelling AI story in semiconductors right now. And I think their results spoke for themselves last night. Pretty solid. We didn't really change our estimates too much coming out of earnings.